Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 124 of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Johnson with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, going to be joined by Austin Theriault, former ARCA Menards Series champion. He's raced in all the top levels of NASCAR. We'll get his perspective and what he's been up to, including serving time in politics as well in the state of Maine. We'll get that whole perspective and more when Austin joins us coming up in just a little while. We'll have our news and notes. We'll look at the top headlines in the sport, our Ask David segment with some questions you guys have submitted. But first, we begin with a look back at the weekend that was with Michael McDowell getting the win at the Indianapolis road course. David Starr joins us right now. David, first off, good to always see you, my friend. But secondly, Michael McDowell, he might have won at the best two places in the world in his first two wins between Daytona and Indianapolis. And there was nothing lucky about this win. They dominated that 34 team. As good as Michael McDowell ran, credit to Front Row Motorsports, they had the best car in the field on Sunday.
Man, man, unbelievable. So I'm just happy for Michael. Nothing was ever given to him. For most people that know his story, he's been in Cup for a long time, but he's fought, clawed, worked, he's worked his tail off to stay in the sport, and glad to see him and his organization, there's the funding they have and the backing by Ford. It's amazing to see him win the Daytona 500 like he did, and to see him back, come back to Indianapolis and win the road race there. And like you said, Tyler, if you were going to pick two races to win, those are definitely the two ones you want to win. There's a very special, the Daytona 500, and I don't know if they call it the Brickyard 400, but winning at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is just, those are wins I think any driver would tell you if there were two they'd want to win, and those would be the two. But man, like you said, Michael McDowell has always been a great race car driver. Unfortunately, over the years, the teams he's driven for, he was just blessed to be there and blessed to have the opportunity, but didn't have the resources, engineering, technology, the funding behind him, but he was there competing. And to see what Front Row Motorsports has done over the last 2-3 years is amazing. And Michael's finally, we've always known he was a great race car driver, but finally starting to see how good of a race car driver he is behind a great organization. I mean, Tyler, like you said, all the great road racers that he beat, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, just on and on and on, and dominated the race. It was just, it's really one of the Cinderella stories of the season in NASCAR. It's so awesome for him and his family and his kids. It's wonderful to have a spot in the playoff, I think, for Michael McDowell's first time ever, and maybe even Front Row Motorsports' first time ever it's awesome. But man, you've seen Michael since the season started. Their cars have a lot of speed. Michael, he's been running great all year long. It's finally see the fruits of their labor pay off. You know what I mean? It was awesome. Great race, and great to see him win.
Yeah, Front Row Motorsports has been running well all season long. No fluke at all by this performance. They've been a playoff contender with Michael McDowell there. Now their second playoff appearance in 3 years after making it a couple of years ago at that Daytona 500 win. Dominic Aragon joins us right now as well. Dominic, I got to say, with him getting into the playoff here, now this is certainly shaking up the playoff picture. He proved Denny Hamlin wrong, that he belongs there. And we saw him go on Denny's podcast this week, and they had a friendly banter back and forth. This shakes up the playoff picture for the drivers' points, but also the owners' playoff points are shaking up a little bit too with that 23 car too.
Absolutely. There's so many moving parts and pieces with 2 races left. We have 3 drivers that have yet to win a race that are still in the playoffs. And of course, they get preempted over somebody that's going to win a race that's below that cut line. And Tyler, I think the bigger picture on it too, kind of like a similar battle to what we had last year. We had so many winners, and we saw the guy who was 5th in points fifth most points, not even qualify for the NASCAR postseason. You have Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski, who are sixth and eighth in points with those most points. And there's only 2 points that separate them. Bubba Wallace holds that final spot in 16th. And if Bubba wins this weekend at the Glen, or anybody below that cut line, you've bumped the 23 car, and now you have this potential battle between the 4 and the 6. And if there's another new winner in Daytona, we could be looking at somebody, again, like last year, who has top 10 most points, not even qualify for the postseason.
Yeah, and all eyes are on Chase Elliott, who had one of his best chances to make it in the postseason this last week. He ends up finishing third. Still a couple more shots, though, for him, Alex Bowman, and others to try to make it in the postseason. Before we get too far along in today's show, Dominic, our guest this week, has got a great track record in the sport. He's a champion, and he's got a pretty interesting path and journey, and especially what he's been doing as of late as well. Tell us about this week's guest.
Well, they always say everybody has a unique story on where they're going or how they've gotten to where they are at. But when you look at our next guest story, Austin Theriault has a really, really cool story on being a race car driver, winning races, winning an ARCA championship, running at all 3 levels of NASCAR's top touring series, moving back to his home state of Maine, serving the public and serving his constituents. And, oh, by the way, he's making a racing comeback here in the coming weeks, which we're going to talk about this week on the show. But when we reached out to Austin's team about having him come on as a guest, the team said absolutely. And so here we are. And Austin, we really appreciate you taking the time here to join us this week on Let's Go Racing.
Well, it's good to be with you all.
Man, we appreciate the time. And one of our go-tos, we love diving in deep and having our guests take it back to the beginning from their perspective. So for you, tell us where it all began. The love of motorsport, the love of auto racing, where that origin story begins for you.
It began attending races with my grandfather. And back in the day, I think Loudon up in New Hampshire had two cup races. Once in the I want to say once in the summer and once in the fall. And so, a little youngster would attend those races. We'd go camp out for the week and stuff. So that was my first sort of introduction to racing, and NASCAR racing, and, watching Gordon and Martin and, Sterling Marlin and Tony Stewart and those guys. That's when I became a fan, just actually more than a casual fan. I remember, we used to watch every race in the house every week. So from there, we had a local short track that opened up. It had been closed for a while because, short tracks even back then are struggling. This was 2007. And it opened up, like, new ownership. And we had heard some friends of ours were racing there. And I'm like, well, geez, what is this all about? What is short track racing? I didn't really know that there was that level of racing going on, and it's funny to hear it now because we're all amongst racers, and especially like amongst the NASCAR families. When you talk about these first generation stories of racing, to them it can be like, it can sound really weird. My first race car was an '86 Pontiac Grand Am that we think we found. We found not in the junkyard, but it was like a bomber car that had been torn apart and a roll cage put in it, stuff, and from there, moved into mini stocks and Mustang 4-cylinder cars, and then into late models and pro late models, super late models. Did a bunch of racing throughout Maine, and then actually throughout the Northeast. And then from there, I did the thing that a lot of other drivers do, and that's make the jump. Take the van full of your luggage and your race suit and helmet and all that, and head down to Carolina. That was, I think, 2012 or 2013. I just graduated high school, and had a couple college applications that had been approved and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm surprised. I surprised everybody. Said I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to go down and chase this racing. Didn't know a lot of people, but certainly knew a few people. And now I guess the rest is history. My first summer in Charlotte, well, it was, yeah, my first summer in Charlotte, I lived in Cornelius, which was not, about 25 minutes to Mooresville and a bunch of the shops. But I think my first summer was I was racing a late model for Gary Crooks, who was working with Keselowski at the time, and Brad had a super late model that he was running. But I would work in the shop during the week on the cars, clean them. Basically, I was doing the stuff that nobody else wanted to do on the cars. So when they were clean, everybody else wanted to work on them and set them up. But yeah, I actually enjoyed that. You get to learn a lot about the cars when you're working on them like that. But that kind of brings us closer to what you talked about. Some of the truck opportunities and ARCA, K&N even, I think, have some starts there in K&N, trucks, ARCA, Xfinity, eventually Cup, but certainly it wasn't without challenges. I know, David, a lot of us understand it wasn't a straight path. It wasn't a straight, easy path. And through those obstacles, I think you learn a lot about the sport and learn a lot about yourself. Probably more importantly, you learn a lot about, what you're made of during those challenges. But I'm fortunate for the challenges, looking back at it now.
Well, man, man, it's great to hear, it's great to hear you taking us back to where it started at, because it was impressive. It's impressive to start with the 86 Grand Am in the street stock bomber class, and to, race all the different divisions and work your way up to NASCAR. I mean, there's so many great race car drivers up in that part of Maine and New Hampshire and just all in the Northeast, and man, your talent as a race car driver. I remember when I first saw you, I mean, it was just like, man, who is this guy who's winning races and kicking some tail? I mean, next thing you know, you're driving for Brad Keselowski. It was a big deal, and man, I mean, you had a lot of speed. You just race good. You know what I mean? It was fun to watch this new guy come into the sport and just dominate like you did. It was amazing, and to hear your story, and how you got there. And again, it's great to hear from you, Austin, because it lets people know, with a lot of desire, a lot of passion, a lot of want to, and the talent you have. It's not an easy path, but man, you lived it, you did it, and it's great to hear those stories and to make it to NASCAR, running some Cup races, Xfinity, and to win races in the Truck Series, driving for one of the superstars of our sport, of our industry, is amazing. You know what I mean? And I think then your teammate, obviously a superstar today. That you outran a lot. Tyler, was it Roddick? Was it as the guy who drives? Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing to hear your story, how it started, going to the races with your grandfather, going to the Loudon Cup races, and then sitting there watching, and then I don't know how many years later, and then you're actually competing at that level, at a professional level. It's a great story, dude, and it was amazing, and it's kind of cool I always wonder how, how you and Brad hooked up, what was the connection there? And obviously Brad seen the talent you had because y'all were racing super late models together. And then I think that's how you ended up getting to ride in his truck. I mean, Brad's a racer. He's a racer, a full blown racer. He wants to win. He can spot talent. It's not always about who's got money, you know what I mean? And it's cool that the opportunity he gave you and what you did with that opportunity it's really a great story in our sport, really.
I remember the first time I don't remember the name of the restaurant, but it was a restaurant up in Statesville on Main Street. I think it's probably closed now, but I think it was an Italian restaurant. And I remember
Yeah.
having dinner with him. The introduction came through another friend of mine who's a longtime competitor. He's retired from driving up here, late model driver. But he introduced me to Wayne Setterington. I don't know if that name sounds familiar, but he was running Brad's operations at the time, kind of like a GM.
Right.
And so that's how it all began. And Wayne was paying attention to what was going on up, late model racing across the country. And I think we had ran good at the Oxford 250 or something. And so this other gentleman, Scott, had introduced me to Wayne, and then that's how the introduction to Brad happened.
You can have all those introductions. I mean, be friend and have all those introductions, but when it comes down to it, it's driving those race cars and driving it with the passion, the desire, and winning races and running good. That's and having those introductions, it's everything. But it's just cool to see how it all worked out. But you got to have the ability, the talent, and they saw what you had and how special that was. And it was cool to see somebody like yourself that nobody gave you anything. It's kind of like the Michael McDowell story. You fought for everything you got, worked your way up through the system, started at Bombers, and a lot of our stars today in our sport, and good for them. And there's nothing wrong with them. A lot of them, and I'm not mentioning any names, they don't have those stories. I started in the Bomber class, got an opportunity here, went up to the street stock, won there, the procession, the progression of getting to be a great race car driver, building your race cars and understanding the physics of a car and how they handle, how they work. A lot of drivers today, even some of our superstars, if you want to talk race cars with them and chassis and bumps there and just, they can't talk with you because, and not any fault of theirs, they was able to maybe buy their way into some good race cars and they're great drivers and win and perform. And it gave them other opportunities, but it's cool to hear somebody like yourself is a true hardcore racer, man, that did it how most of us did it then, you know what I mean? And it's pretty cool to hear that, dude.
David, I'm sure you could relate to one of the first times I'd been with one of the first times I'd been with like a crew from down south. They kept telling me, like, dude, you just drive the car. Don't worry about crew chiefing the thing from inside the car. Because up here, I worked with some really good guys and stuff, but but there was one that was eventually a good crew chief, but they were just kind of grunts at the track. And so I was, hey, let's put around in the right rear spring, got to take some wedge out. You kind of had to play that. You had to play the driver, and you had to play the crew chief, and kind of do the calls and at some of the big races. That's just how it was.
Yeah.
And so you had to understand that. And when you go to the big times, they get offended when you start telling them what they need to do. I worked away from that. I understood, the technology is so far advanced to what we can keep track of as a driver. I got over it. It just, it took me a while. I kept having to remind myself early on that, you're a driver. Don't worry about, spring rubbers here, spring rubbers there. Let the crew chief fix the car. And then if they don't fix it, you can blame them. But that's kind of the story there.
Well, hey man, they got to earn their money too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, man. It's cool to hear that, because a lot of them will tell you what they're going to do, and you'll give them your opinion, or they'll ask you, hey, I'm going to make this change, and what's your thoughts? Like, hey man, that sounds good to me, and if it don't work, hey, what do you think? But it's cool that what the race car needs to make it do what you need it to do. And not every driver, even great drivers today, they can't tell their crew. They can tell them what the car's doing, loose entry on, free on entry, tight in the center, my forward bite's terrible, whatever it may be. But, how to fix that, there's lots of them that know what it needs, but there's a lot of them that don't, just because they just don't know. You know what I mean? They didn't start in bomber cars and work their way up and build cars and understand, and really not any fault of their own. It's just everybody's got their own story. You know what I mean? So we had to fight our way and learn how the cars work and know what we needed. But it's cool to hear a hardcore racer like yourself work your way all the way up to NASCAR, not just get there, but win there, man. You had a great story, dude. It's amazing. You should be. Yeah. I'm sure you're proud of your accomplishments, and and your family is too, because it was.
And that leads to the next great question, David. That I was going to just ask Austin here. Austin, of what you've done in your racing career, what's the most you're proud of? What's your biggest accomplishment, you think?
That's a good question. I think winning at Daytona, even though the racing's not what we all grew up doing, super speedway racing, I just think at that sort of venue, something that you can look back on and say, there's very few people that have won there in any type of vehicle. So to be able to be there in victory lane with what at the time, I think that year was with Schrader and Donnie Richardson and that whole crew, as hard as they worked that whole year. I think that was certainly a moment to remember. Going back, David, to what you were talking about, you reminded me of somebody making a similar comment. And I won't name the name of the driver either, but he's he's a great driver in the Cup Series, but he don't know the difference between a sway bar and an axle. If you showed it to him, So
yeah.
So yeah, I hear what you're saying, but
but it's funny how it happens, man. But it's just amazing. Sometimes you want to bounce stuff, what you're doing, your setup, and just, right rear springs, and just, sometimes I'm kind of, at times I'm shocked, but not really shocked when I, just your fellow competitors, some you're close to and some you're not real close to, but, common thing you talk about, how's your car and, and this and that, and, what helped mine, what helped yours, that they'll share that information with you sometimes. And sometimes, man, they're just honest and, man, I don't have a clue. I just drive it, tell them what it's doing. I wouldn't have a clue what shocks we got, how much wedge we get, nothing, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just, I thought it was always amazing, but it's cool. Your story's a great story. I was racing in Las Vegas when you had that wreck, and that was a big story then, and I don't even remember what year it was, but man, I think you might even been leading the race. I was watching the race. You had a fast truck that day or night, and maybe you can share with us what year that was, because I don't remember what year it was, but man, you were on top of your game, and I asked the question to you because I don't know that injury when you got hurt there. Is that what sets you back? Again, my ignorance, not knowing, but
yeah.
Up until that wreck, dude, you were the guy. People talked about you. You were the up and coming. You were going to be a superstar on a Cup side. It was just a matter of time. You know what I mean? And then unfortunately that wreck. I'm trying to remember. I think you hit the outside. It was coming off turn 4 because it happened on front straightaway, if I remember. I was watching the race, and man, it was big news, and it was big news time after that, about your recovery process, and I'm just, it's cool that you're here right now, but can you share with us about that when you got injured, that race? Yeah,
David, thinking about it every once in a while, I think about it, and it could have been a lot worse. with all the technologies and stuff that it's been advanced to, that's really the only reason I'm here. That sort of straight on impact there would have killed drivers back in the day for sure. And even then, I bent the steering wheel, it hit so hard. So, between that year, if I'm not mistaken, David, Kyle Busch hit the wall and broke a leg or something like that, I believe. And between those two accidents, they may happen fairly close to each other or whatever. I think NASCAR said, okay, we got to start putting safer barriers all around the racetrack because guys are hitting walls, that we thought they were never going to hit. It's like they didn't think that they didn't necessarily think that somebody was going to hit the wall, down the straightaway at Vegas straight on like that. But
right.
You can't predict anything in racing. Obviously, it's easy to say now, looking back, maybe that was the sort of thing that happens in somebody's career it's super hard to come back from. There's not a lot of room for error in this whole racing business. You know how that is. If you have a good opportunity, even though they don't say an injury, will set you back, it really will. Anytime it affects your races that you have planned. I mean, we all know there's sponsorship that's involved in it. There's people that are behind the scenes. When you break that momentum there, that can take a while to come back from. And I would say that's definitely some of what occurred. But came back from that and won an ARCA championship. So I certainly can't complain. Though it's frustrating, but I'm happy for the drivers who, sat in that truck after that. I mean, you look at Austin Cindric came in, and then, you look where he's now, and Reddick's, winning races at the Cup level. Both teammates of mine at different points in that year. So great for them. But certainly challenging. But I will say it. I wouldn't be the person I am today in a lot of good ways if it wasn't for those tough days at the racetrack.
Absolutely. But you look at those guys that you were beating. I mean, Reddick was your teammate, and man, how did he wasn't out driving you. I saw you beat him a lot. You know what I mean? And it's amazing to see what these guys did in your truck. I say your truck, Brad's truck, but it's just a tough business. You know what I mean? And you look at where they're at, and in my mind, and I know a lot of other people's mind, you should be right there with them. You know what I mean? Ability wise, talent wise, you got just the equal amount, maybe a little bit more, in my mind. So I want to go back to what you were talking about. If it wasn't for yourself and Kyle Busch, they should have named y'all's crashes, your injuries really has made the sport a better sport because of what you made the industry have to pay attention to. And other people that wreck like y'all wrecked now can get out of that race car that might be shaken up a little bit, but the injuries aren't nowhere near how y'all were injured, and they get to race again the following week. You know what I mean? And I think it's because, and I know it is, and it is. It's because of what you guys had to go through to get there. You know what I mean? For NASCAR to fix. Obviously, there was an issue there. You know what I mean? So, so I thank you for that. But I hated it that you got hurt like you got hurt, and maybe some opportunities. Maybe I don't even know how you say that, opportunities that you had might have gone away because of your injuries, you know what I mean? Which is terrible to me, you know what I mean? But again, you went on to win an ARCA championship, and that was amazing, you know? So yeah, tough deal. Your injuries you sustained there in Vegas, are you 100%? I don't even know what your injuries were, but have you recovered 100% from that, Austin?
Yeah, my back and neck, and for the most part, yeah. I mean, I can tell you the scans don't look like a 29-year-old guy, but hey, a lot of people have worse, and look at somebody like Travis Mills, veteran that I'm working with on this Oxford 250. We'll probably talk about that at some point.
Yeah,
He doesn't have any arms and legs, and he's still going and inspiring people. So it was tough. It was a tough lick, and my body, feels it, but I'm still fortunate to be able to walk and, basically do everything else. So.
Well, at one point you mentioned, Austin, was that you said you would not be the person you are today had that not happened. That how much you've grown and from where you were at that point, and now, in case people don't know, we mentioned that you're a state congressman now in your home state of Maine, and doing the politics side of things. How much has your life changed since you stepped away from racing full time, and how much have you grown? How different of a person are you now compared to what you were then?
Well, I tell you, I've been dealing with politics ever since I got in a race car. David would know. Yeah. So not a lot's changed. The only difference is that it's an official capacity.
Hey, Austin, you're still competitive, man. In politics, you want to win. You know what I mean? You're still racing. You know.
Yeah. But on a more serious note, it feels good. First of all, to come back and be able to represent your home area, the area that you spent majority of your life living as a kid and teenager and young adult. And to know that our generation, my generation, probably your generation, a couple of you guys, our generation, basically the 18 to 40 or 35, we're going to have to step up and start really getting serious about where we, getting serious about what's going on around us. I'm trying to be careful what I say. I'm like a politician, but we got to be very pay attention to our surroundings, our towns and our cities where we live, because this is places that we're going to have to be dealing with here for years to come. And if we want to have young people being born and having hope for their future, we've got to start being involved in politics. And it's not always the most convenient thing to get involved in. I mean, we live in a time when it's a lot easier to not say nothing, to not say anything about politics, and to just stay quiet. And a lot of people are doing that and I don't blame them, because it's just, you open up a can of worms every time. But that's not how our country was formed and our country was started, and our country depends on people, I think, being involved at all different levels. And so I guess to play a small part of that is humbling, and it's exciting, but extremely frustrating at times, because the gears of government work very slowly. Sometimes they grind, and sometimes they turn backwards. And sometimes there are influences in groups that come in there and just gum up the gears so they don't even turn at all. But that's just the reality of I guess the cultures and all that we live in. So Maine's only a small state. There's about 1.3 million people, give or take some. It's grown a little bit over the past 10 years. But compared, to a state like North Carolina or California or New York or Florida, I mean, our state is a majority, unpopulated land. Now there's some big cities. Obviously there's some big cities and all that, but a lot of Maine is rural area. People are farming, logging, construction, the sort of blue collar, hard work ethic and all that. And those people I think are getting forgotten in our world today. So I try to advocate for them, try to advocate for, common sense, in politics, which is harder to come by. There's still some common sense, but it's certainly not like it used to be. I remember watching politics growing up, and it's gotten a lot worse. And so, I think I'll leave it at that. Try not to get super political into certain issues and stuff. But I'm glad you brought it up. It's something I enjoy talking about. But we'll see where the future. We'll see where the future drags me to. Right now, I'm enjoying myself in the in the House, which is the one of the two chambers of the legislatures, the House and the Senate. So we'll see what doors open and stuff, and what calls me to what calls next in terms of if there's any other opportunities and whatnot. So it's been great so far.
Well, and you can tell David and Tyler just hearing Austin talk about it. He's got his two passions. He's got motorsports. He's got politics, and it's really refreshing to hear that. And I think this segues great point of what you're going to be doing here in a couple of weeks. A very, very prestigious race that you're going to get to partake in with the Oxford 250. So we're talking drivers that have won this race, like Butch Lindley, personal, close to my heart, Jeff Bodine, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, a lot of great drivers that have come through and have won the Oxford 250. So tell us about this. It's a deal that's come together. You're getting to run it, and is there a chance maybe it gives you that itch to run some even more after this?
It came together fairly short notice. I've run that race probably a number of times. I've run the race and come so close to winning. I think we got a second place finish, a third place, or a couple third place or fourth place finish and whatnot. But just come so close to taste it, but not not close enough to get the victory. And we're in August, so yeah, in like May or so, or April or May, I was approached to run the race, and decided to work with a team out of Vermont, Derek Ming, who's a co-owner of the teams. Used to actually be a Busch North official. It's kind of a small world, but he's since retired from working for NASCAR and does his own deal now. But Bar Harbor Bank and Trust, who's the presenting sponsor for us, jumped on board. And it was also at that time when we said, well, how can we make this more than just about banking and just even more about more than me, right? I know people wanted me to come back and run the race, but I certainly just didn't want to do it for me. So what we did was I put the wagon or the sort of the train back on tracks with the Travis Mills Foundation. And right before COVID, Travis and I had done a really big fundraiser at Homestead Miami Speedway for the Cup race there. And I've stayed in touch with Travis throughout that whole time. Travis is a quadruple amputee, like I said, and he was blown up by a bomb in Afghanistan. So instead of just kind of letting his life go, well, as he says, is sort of go to waste and just getting into a depression and that he couldn't get out of, he started helping those with similar stories to him. Other folks, men and women who sacrificed, physically and emotionally for their country. and as well as the families, he started a nonprofit foundation to benefit them and help them get back on I say back on their feet, but back in a way into society in a way that they feel like they can be a part of it again. So long story short, by running the race coming up here on the 27th, we have the opportunity to raise up to 50,000, if not more, but up to 50,000. An anonymous donor came on board once we announced this whole thing, and they said, "Okay, we'll give you $100 a lap for every lap you compete, and then we'll give you another $25,000 if you finish in the top 5." So if you do the math, that's a maximum, match of 50,000. We're also doing a small. We're also asking, regular people who want to be involved in this whole thing to jump on board and support the foundation. So we've also got a small donation link set up for people that want to donate, a little bit of money here and there. And that's live on my Facebook page and basically across all my social media platforms. And we've gotten a great response, from different media who don't normally cover racing. And they want to tell the story. They want to tell Travis's story. Travis loves telling his story. He's a really funny guy to be around. I think certainly he's not let these challenges in life get in the way of him living a life to the fullest potential that he possibly can. In addition to inspiring everybody around him. So it's humbling to be, affiliated with them and to play a small part in their operations and keeping them going.
That's fantastic. I love it. Plenty more to come here with Austin Theriault as we continue here on Let's Go Racing. We'll have our Ask David segment coming up later, but first, our news and notes with our latest headlines around the sport. Dominic, go ahead and take us away.
We got just a couple of headlines before we get to everyone's favorite segment, but certainly some more question marks surrounding Legacy Motor Club after the Watkins Glen entry this weekend. So Mike Rockenfeller will be filling in for a second straight week behind the wheel of the number 42 Chevrolet for the team. And as we talked on the show last week, certainly that connection with Jimmy Johnson, who owns the team, and them getting to participate in the Garage 56 together. But 12 races left in the season, Tyler. No announcement yet on who is replacing the now departing Noah Gragson, who asked to be released from his contract over the last third of the year. So anybody's guess. And Tyler, certainly a lame duck situation too, with the team swapping to Toyota in 2024. Got to figure they're going to probably put some different Chevrolet drivers or try to keep consistency. Maybe a Josh Berry who is filled in. Maybe we see Mike Rockenfeller back for the Charlotte Roval race. Who knows? Anyone's guess at this point, though, Tyler.
Yeah, very bizarre situation that comes from the Noah Gragson suspension. Austin, we'll start with you. What's your thoughts on just everything that's transpired with that 42 team here the last couple of weeks?
It's a very difficult situation, guys. I've known Noah just from encounters at the racetrack and off the racetrack, and he's seems like he's always conducted himself, with a level of integrity. I think where I go with this is a story I tell to some of the other young drivers that I mentor right now. Either from driver development standpoint or some of the other business sort of consulting that I do with these drivers is remind them that your actions online are going to follow you wherever you go, and I think we see an example of sort of an impulsive decision that was made, basically, at least temporarily, derail a career that was promising. So, judging from the Larson story, I certainly think that there's a way back. I think Larson's kind of showed a very clean. Well, I say clean. It certainly for him it wasn't easy, but a clean potential path back to NASCAR and what that looks like. But I think rather than speculating further, I think all I'll say is that I'm sure Noah is, taking some time to reflect on what's occurred and what's gone on. And I believe he's made a public statement about it, just saying that, he feels really bad about what happened, and that it doesn't reflect, his character and what he truly feels. So it's an unfortunate situation of, I think, the world we live in right now. And I hope that everybody, gets some closure out of it, and at some point in the future can, move forward, and better things can come potentially. And let's just, in my opinion, it's like, I think everybody should let the dust settle and see where things shake out. But I'm sure, hopefully Noah will land on his feet somewhere.
David, that 42 team, this is an awkward situation for them. Their driver's gone. And it's not like that they are putting these drivers in to try to fix the program of some sorts, because they're about to move to Toyota next year. So we already know the driver is going to be John Hunter Nemechek. He can't be in a Chevrolet car right now while they make this switch. Just kind of, I think, to use a political term that Austin's familiar with, lame duck session right now for that 42 car right now. This is there's no win for this team right now. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better for that team the rest of the year.
Yeah, unfortunate. It just, it's an unfortunate situation because, we've been part of the sport for many years, and when you're exiting out of a manufacturer and entering into another manufacturer, a competitor, so the support that they're given Legacy Motorsports right now is probably zero. You know what I mean? So, they obviously the losing their driver, there's no win. I'm sure as an organization, inside their organization, they're trying to, I'm sure there's a plan in place to learn, educate for the future, but, and again, I kind of agree with you, Tyler. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better because, obviously they're going to switch over to Toyota in the wintertime. And so, yeah, it's a challenging situation for that organization. It even affects, you just look at Eric Jones, he's very talented, won Darlington last year. They're just right now, they're not very competitive, which is kind of shocking. They had a lot of momentum coming into the season this year. Eric won the Darlington race right there towards the end of the season, and man, they were strong. Noah Gragson is a great great driver. I don't really think I really think he's got lots and lots of talent, and there was a little bit of glimpse here and there, but not much throughout the season to this point where the 42 car really shined. There was nothing there, and you can't sit back and I just think the organization where they're at, man, they're way behind, and I don't think I like you said, Tyler, it's going to get worse before it gets better, and the manufacturing change. So yeah, they're kind of a sitting duck right now, but within the organization, I'm sure there's plans in place to learn what they can learn with this new next gen car and apply it for next season, but by God, who would ever thought we'd have saw this coming, you know what I mean? But a unique situation for sure.
Right. And Dominic, we say all this, Eric Jones is a very good plate racer. I mean, with everything that's transpired, even though that team hasn't been running well, there's still an outside chance we could see Eric Jones in that other car win at Daytona or something, get that team into the playoff. Wouldn't that be a turn of events?
No, certainly. I think you can't rule anything out at this point. And I think the other thing to mention too, Tyler, Eric Jones is a very undervalued but very good road course racer. In his 5 starts at Watkins Glen, he's placed inside the top 10 4 times, and I believe that was one of his top 10 finishes last year, was at Watkins Glen with Legacy Motor Club. Who's not to say you could see Jones run well this week and next week, be a threat to win at least at one of these events.
Yeah, that'll be something to watch for sure. Dominic, this week at the Glen, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the oldest road course on the NASCAR circuit.
Oldest current NASCAR, yes, absolutely.
Yes, we've seen some amazing races at this track over the years, and Sunday should be no exception.
Absolutely. And it has a cool history where it was one of those things where it was on the schedule, off the schedule. It originally was on the Cup Series schedule in 1957, and that was a one-off. Buck Baker won the first race. Then it was on the schedule for 2 years in 64 and 65. Billy Wade, Marvin Pants drivers had won there. And then, Tyler, you had to wait another 21 years for it to come back on the schedule. And it has been a staple on the schedule since 1986, with the exception of 2020 and the pandemic year. But you had some really good names win at Watkins Glen Raceway, International rather. Tim Richmond, Rusty Wallace, Jeff Bodine, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick, just to name a few of the drivers. And this weekend will be the 40th race at Watkins Glen International for the Cup Series. And some of your odds-on favorites as you look ahead at the Go Bowling at the Glen this weekend. Mark Truex Jr., winner at plenty of road course races. He's sitting at 7 or 6.5 to 1. Last year's winner, Kyle Larson, is sitting at 5 to 1, and everybody's favorite. And the driver on the outside looking in, who has won at Watkins Glen in the past and needs a win to get in the playoffs, Chase Elliott at 3.5 to 1. Tyler, you got to like those odds for Chase.
Yeah, certainly so. David, let's start with you on this one here. Watkins Glen, great track for Chase Elliott here. Almost got it done last week. This, to me, I think you look at it, I think they finally figured out some things last week. That 9 teams got some momentum heading into this week.
Yeah, they do. And, to me, he's the odds-on favorite, and the intensity for him to make there's 2 races left before the playoff start. And, he's got 2 good races coming up, but I think the best one is this week in Watkins Glen. Obviously finished in second and has a lot of momentum. It's going to be an exciting race, that's for sure. And there's others, I don't know there's a cutoff line. There's some others back there, but, again, Michael McDowell's got so much momentum coming off that great win. He'll be a force to be reckoned with, and Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, maybe AJ Allmendinger. It's going to be a great race, but right now, the one that Chase Elliott needs to win bad. You know what I mean? So I think he's an odds-on favorite right now, as far as I'm concerned.
And Austin, some good road course racers on the outside looking in right now. We mentioned Chase, but AJ Allmendinger there, Austin Cindric there, Ty Gibbs on the outside now, Daniel Suarez, who ran really good this past week. I mean, there's a number of guys that are on the outside that, Austin, I don't think any of us would be surprised if they found a way to get victory lane and clinch the playoff spot here.
No, I know there's a lot of head scratching going on and a lot of chalkboards trying to study. What can we do? What else can we do on the car to maximize our chance to win? And then same thing with drivers. I mean, I'm sure all of them are just watching and rewatching film from last year, trying to figure out, either film or now they have data they can look at. SMT, I think, is what it's called, but they can look at data and lap traces and throttle and brake and steering. That's what these guys are doing right now. I'm sure, 100% sure of it. Well, especially if they're serious about doing this last chance ditch effort, especially if they feel like the road course is their best chance at making the playoffs. I know Cindric certainly does. He's that's where he comes from. He's got a lot of road course experience, but you name some other good drivers. So I'll certainly be watching from the couch.
I love it. Dom, I've been picking Chase Elliott every week till he wins. I do think this is the time he breaks through. I think I said that last week, though. But with that said, I got to tell you, don't sleep on Daniel Suarez. Trackhouse been fast all year. His pit crew kind of let him down in one of those pit stops there in that race in Indianapolis, which was unfortunate considering how good Trackhouse been all year on pit road. But as much as we've talked about Chase Elliott, based on how last week went, we probably should talk about Daniel Suarez to an extent too. I mean, he's got to be a threat this week as well.
Certainly. He's one of the 14 drivers entered this week and has won on a road course in the Cup Series. He won that race out at Sonoma last year. And even his rookie year, qualified on the front row at Watkins Glen in 17 in that Joe Gibbs car. I think he even won a stage 2, Tyler. So you know that Daniel Suarez can get it done. But I'm with you, Tyler. We're picking favorites for this weekend. I'm going with the odds-on favorite. Chase Elliott gets it done. And I know we said that last week, but this has a different ring to it. He's actually won here at Watkins Glen a couple of times. Chase Elliott gets it done on Sunday.
David, are we going 3 for 3 again? Are we going Chase Elliott here?
I think I'm gonna go with Chase Elliott. You know what I mean? But the guy that's really, Michael McDowell. He was so dominant this past weekend, and the momentum that organization and he has. I wouldn't be surprised to see him win again. You know what I mean? But Chase needs to win to get into playoffs, and it'll be exciting. But I want to make this. I'm gonna go with what you guys, the pick you guys go with. I think Chase Elliott gets it done.
Austin, give us your pick. Do you want to go 4 for 4 and Chase, or you got another guy you think gets it done?
Well, if I'm a politician predicting, which side wins, I guess I got to go with Chase so that more people like me after this decision. But I'm just thinking about I'm thinking about who else. Maybe Daniel. That would be my dark horse.
Okay, I like that. That's a good pick there. So there's our news and notes for this week. Time now for our Ask David segment, our final segment where you can submit questions to us and our guests each and every week. Facebook.com/Star Podcast, Twitter @Star Podcast, and by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. Our first question in the inbox this week is for Austin, comes from Kendall, and Kendall wants to know, Austin, are you surprised at all by Brad Keselowski's early success already as an owner in the Cup Series, having raced for him in the Truck Series?
No, I'm not. I'm not surprised. I think Brad's got a business sense that most people probably on the outside don't know much or don't know much about. He's got other enterprises beyond racing that he's got a CNC company, but even beyond that, I think Brad knows how to surround himself with good people. My gut tells me that Brad himself, is not down there like telling them what springs to put in the car and what exactly they need to do, and he's not telling them the reason they're winning the races. The reason I think they're winning and they're more successful is because of the people he's identified. I think maybe what he's done is he's identified some gaps in some of the areas that they were struggling, and figured out who he had to put in those places to get them back on track. I know at least one person that worked with us at Keselowski's at the truck team at a very high level that's now working over there with Brad. And I think part of what he's doing is exactly what I said. I think he's managing personnel and trying to align them and maybe bringing in other folks, because it's all about trying to get new information in, information from the outside, right? Other teams, other people, what's working for other organizations, but also trying to implement it in a way that's going to be able to work for the the Roush organization from the past, because you can't just start from scratch That doesn't work either. So I think they've kind of found a balance right now, and I'm sure there'll be some further hiccups. I mean, any organization has good days and bad days, and they might have figured something else out, and another rule change comes up, and now it's back to the drawing board. But for now, what I will say is it's good to see another organization vying for wins. I don't think anybody likes to see a Cup Series where just to get a couple organizations winning every week. I remember growing up. I remember growing up and watching Roush Racing, competing for wins every single week, and it's good to see them kind of signaling that those days might be coming again.
Definitely so. And David, to Austin's point there, of Brad putting his stamp on this team, Jack Roush obviously is the foundation of that organization, and Fenway Sports Group and everybody that's involved there. But we're not seeing Jack at the track much anymore, at least not nearly as much as we used to. And you're seeing Brad as the representative, and all the photos and everything are showing Brad in the race shop. Like this feels like this is Brad's team now, that this is his operation, that he's the face of this thing, kind of like the torch has been passed over of sorts.
Oh, no doubt about it. Jack Roush Racing for all the years, and seeing all the championships and wins with with Biffle and Mark Martin and so on. I mean, Jack, the championships and the organization, what he built is just, it's Hall of Fame organization, But over the years, I think when Jack's had his airplane crashes, I think there's two of them, the injuries he sustained. And, you got to look at, I don't know how old Jack is, but when I see him in the garage and at the track now, his physical condition, he don't get around as good as he once did. I think the torch has been passed a long time ago, and they needed somebody like Brad Keselowski to come in and to kind of take that torch and run with it. And what Austin was saying was, man, with this next gen race cars, you look at what the organization has done over the last couple of years, and it's the areas where there's a big gap, and Brad's, like Austin said, Brad's not down there telling them how to fix it or what springs and shocks and sway bars and but his business skills, he's gone out and understanding the areas that needed attention and brought in the right people that could close that gap in that areas with and I just think his business sense and his organization, I can't say that word.
Organization.
Yes, skills have really brought that team together. And, you look at Brad Keselowski and his other driver, I went blank on him from Texas. Yeah, Buescher. I mean, those guys are incredible. Great shoes. Buescher's just done a tremendous job. Brad, if everything's right. I mean, he's any weekend he's going to win him another race. I mean, you look at him, he led at Indianapolis. He was right there in the mix. He had a fast car again, week in and week out. The Roush cars have lots of speed. And so all those gaps that Austin was talking about, I think they're closed. You know what I mean? They're right there. But I just look at Brad. He is the face of that organization. He is that organization now. And, Jack Roush is still involved, but Jack is not making the decisions. It's all Brad. You know what I mean? And Brad knew when he came in there as an owner. I mean, he raced against those cars. He's talked to the drivers that driven those cars. Now we got a next gen car, so you kind of had a clean start. But he knew coming in as an owner where those big gaps were. And then,
right.
He went to work to bring in the right engineering, technology, the right specialists that could close those gaps. And man, we've been watching those gaps get close, and you've seen them cars over up until today. I mean, we've been watching how fast they are and how better they've gotten since Daytona. It's amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they might be the best Ford team right now.
No doubt about it. But the torch has been passed big time a long time ago. He is in the reason why that organization is back to being where they're at, championship contenders,
Dominic, the next step for Brad and that team has got to be getting Brad to victory lane. And I feel like with as fast as they've been, and we know he's a champion, if he gets back to victory lane, then that might be the first of many wins to come for Brad in that 6 car.
You could think about like the floodgates opening when that actually does happen. And I don't know if you feel the same way, David. I know you followed the sport very closely in the 1990s. I've often felt that this move that Brad Keselowski made, going from a race-winning organization to taking that venture on and taking that risk to be a team owner, reminds me a lot of Bill Elliott's move in the 1990s, leaving Junior Johnson and Associates and starting his own team. Bill Elliott went 6 years as a team owner and didn't win a race, but came so close so many times. But Tyler, I don't think that's going to be the case this time. Certainly it's year two, but once it wins, it's not
what Tony Stewart did at Stewart-Haas, but it's not Bill Elliott level either. It's they are an emerging team, though.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And one of the things I think that it's important to understand, and Austin might know a little bit more about this, but the Fenway group, I'm talking, really in an area where I'm not familiar with, but the Fenway group, and I don't even know if that's what you call that.
Yeah. Fenway Sports Group, John Henry. Yeah.
Okay. But you look at all the different organizations that are winning races that are championship calibers, and Richard Childress Racing. There's a group, a money group. It seems like all the big cup teams now have really a group or an individual that's really strong business wise that brings the funding resources to the team so they can operate. They can get what they need, breeding the right people in. And I think Brad was having the Fenway group behind what Brad's vision is, and having that funding and that strong of a group behind that organization. I mean, it's, all the ingredients is there to see for Brad to bring back Roush Racing to what it once was. That hasn't been there in a long time. It's right there. It's almost there. What's your thoughts on that, Austin?
Yeah, Austin, on that, I mean, their Fenway Sports Group, they're right in your neighborhood there in New England. That sports group with their resources and their connections, that gives an opportunity for that RFK organization to kind of leverage sponsorship and some different business deals of sorts, right?
Yeah, I believe there was a void. I remember when Fenway Group came in and sort of bought in. It's almost like there was a missing ingredient, and it was almost like a plus performance. Anytime performance is struggling, you're not gonna max out your sponsorship. It's going to be a struggle. But getting Brad in there, I think, is reinvigorated. The opportunity to go out to market and talk to companies and talk to these, business groups who want to look at NASCAR as a marketing opportunity. Brad's young, and that helps as well. Fenway Sports Group is one of the most successful sports groups, in the country. With the relationship, obviously, with the Red Sox and John Henry. There's more than just that, but they have some really smart people that work there, and I know that they can sell NASCAR. But nowadays we know that it's not just about selling NASCAR. You got to sell something else. You got to sell a story. You got to sell something that pulls at the heartstrings, and something that will actually cause somebody to take action, whether it's buying a product or purchasing a service. And that's not just NASCAR, the idea of NASCAR. And so having Brad in sort of a driver mindset, bringing that into Roush, created a level of excitement that I think is going to help multiply the win, because winning's great, but now I think they can go back to the market and say, look, guys, this is our future. This is the vision we have for the future. Brad's leading at the helm. He's a driver. Eventually Brad's going to step aside, I know, and I'm sure he's going to be, kind of more hands-on with the team, kind of like Gordon, with Hendrick and stuff. A little different, but in the same aspect, where I think that they're also going to be able to utilize him for years to come, because he is a Cup champion, and so they can still sell that when he gets done driving. So I know that I'm sure Fenway Sports was involved in this whole transaction way before it was announced. And I'm sure that they were behind it, or else it wouldn't have happened.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Another question in the inbox coming in from More Pat on Facebook. More Pat writes to Austin. Austin, can we see you back driving in a truck, Xfinity, or Cup car sometime soon?
Well, maybe I'll come back and run whenever I can plaster the logo Theriault for president on the side. Maybe I'll come back for that. Or maybe Starr. We could do Starr for president. What do you think, David? I would consider coming back for those two things. But I won't rule out, making a start here and there, but I really want to see this next chapter of my life kind of dedicated to this whole idea of public service and being involved, and at the government level, and serving people. I think that's what you're going to see me primarily doing. But I'll come back and do racing every now and then, if it's either for a good cause, or if it's, a race that I really, really want to win, or it feels special to me and I feel called to do it in some way, I'll do it. But I'm not just going to come back to race for the heck of it.
Well, Austin, you're man, is that the Oxford 250? Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Very, very prestigious, been around forever. Man, it's cool to hear you talk about Travis, and that race is a very prestigious late model short track race in the country. But man, that race, I mean, you're changing lives running that race, really, with the foundation and getting people to donate. I mean, when you can raise 50 grand or plus, or give plus or minus that number, I mean, you're changing people's lives. You know what I mean? And not only it's possible that you could win that race. You've been close so many times, but man, I don't know if I ever knew somebody racing with such so much meaning behind it. I mean, you running that race is going to change people's lives in the future. It's amazing with the money y'all are raising through Travis's foundation. It's really cool, man. Pretty neat deal.
Yeah. I think the math comes out to being able to put maybe 6 or 8 families, or veterans and their families through the program. And it's expensive to run that whole operation. I was talking to Travis in the group the other week, and it cost them, I think it's like $50,000 for just a week of that. Man. Of what they do.
Running that race is life changing for people, for families. That's pretty cool, dude. Amazing. Yeah.
Dominic, I know you're the T-shirt printer among all of us here. When are we going to start printing the Theriault Starr 2024 shirts?
Well, that's one of those things too, or you could even go so many ways in that campaign. The race winning move, the winning move for America, a vote for Starr and Theriault is a vote for America. There's so many ways we can go about this, Tyler. I like the way this is sounding already.
Hey, Austin, us Texans stand behind you, brother. You know where I stand.
Yeah. Hey, Dom, I'm gonna have to hire you, because it sounds like you can come up with some pretty cool T-shirt sayings, huh?
Hey, that sounds good, man.
And you're also you're the historian of the show, from what I can tell.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
It's very accurate. Yes.
Hey, that means a lot. That means a lot coming from you. And yeah, we'll get together after the show and talk more about that.
Yeah.
Dominic's the t-shirt guy, the history buff. He does it all, and he certainly can help you out. Austin, before we wrap up tonight's show, tell us where people can interact with you and get involved with what you do. Keep up with what you got going on, man.
Well, most importantly, what I'll do is I'll give everybody the link to the website, and you can learn more about Travis and the partnership with Travis. And there's even a little link there that people can click on and donate if they want to. It's austintheriault.com/Oxford250. If you can't spell my last name, then I'm sorry, but I guess you could Google it. Or maybe you guys can link to the donation page. But if not, and you just want to pay attention to what we got going on, coming up, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter, Instagram. You can find me if you search my name. I'm on all those platforms. And we'll be putting out some more content. I spent some time with Travis last week, and we recorded a bunch of content and stuff. So we'll be putting that out there in the days coming up to the race, just to try to drive more people to want to get involved.
I love it. That sounds great. Awesome. David, what's going on with you the next few days?
Man, just working, trying to catch up at the racing school, getting ready for another school here in a couple of weeks, working, getting ready for our Darlington race in Daytona coming up. Just busy got a couple meetings tomorrow. Just busy with all this racing stuff, so normal week for me. So yeah, just, everyday business, working on race cars and getting cars ready for our next event at Texas Motor Speedway and get ready for our next NASCAR race. So yeah.
Love it. Dominic, what about you, man?
I'll be at home this weekend, spending time with my wife, Elise, and son, Christopher, and filling in at the NBC affiliate in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So that should be a lot of fun. And I got to ask you, Tyler, I know summer's starting to wind down. I imagine the summer of Jones is winding down. Where's it going this weekend?
Staying here this week. One of my buddies, friend of the show, Thomas Bridges, who you hear on the Jones Report, he's coming down this weekend, and we're going to show him a good time in Dallas, given the whole Dallas treatment. So we'll
so Dominic I thought that Summer of Jones tour was canceled.
I did too.
Yeah. Definitely not. No, we got a strong month ahead still before that. Austin, thanks for joining us, being here with us, man. Always a pleasure. You're welcome back anytime, and we look forward to talking here in the very near future here, man.
Well, yeah, it's good to be with you all guys, and I enjoyed catching up.
Yes, definitely so. He is Austin Theriault. I'm Tyler Jones, David Starr, Dominic Aragon. We'll put the checkered flag out in this episode. As always, subscribe to Let's Go Racing. New episodes out each and every week, wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Leave us a like. Also, make sure to subscribe as well. And hit us up on social media, facebook.com/Star Podcast, Twitter Star Podcast, and by email at davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. We will see you all next week. Thanks for joining us here on Let's Go Racing.